everyone. The story I'm going to share with you today is a continuation of the story from last week. Do you remember last week that Zipporah and Moses were heading back to Egypt from their home in the desert, and Moses had just encountered the burning bush, and God spoke to him through the burning bush and told him to return to Egypt and free the Hebrew people who were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. So the story today is about that, and in that story, there's that story represents a special time that the Jewish people honor. They call it the Passover, and the Passover takes place at a similar time to when Christians celebrate or honor Holy Week. I don't like to say celebrate because it's not quite a celebration. In Holy Week, that is the week that before Jesus dies, before Easter. And the Passover as well is not a happy story. There's a lot of difficult things that happen in it to the Egyptians. And the fact that the Hebrews were slaves wasn't something to celebrate. But certainly the fact that God protected the Hebrews and allowed them to escape from Egypt is something to remember. And so the Jewish people remember this at the time of Passover. And there's a special meal that they share, and the meal is mentioned in the story. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So I'm going to share the story with you. And then there's a little bit I've got to share about the Passover meal. And that will be it. All right. Have a good week, everyone. And we'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.
The Hebrews leave Egypt. Exodus 5-12. The Hebrews all cheered when Moses and Aaron spoke to them. They hated being slaves. They wanted to be free. So the brothers went to the palace to talk to Pharaoh. God wants you to let our people go, they said. Pharaoh was very angry. I will not let your people go. They belong to me. Tell your people to get back to work. Pharaoh was so angry. He made things even harder for the Hebrew slaves. The Hebrews had to make bricks for Pharaoh's big buildings. They made the bricks out of clay and straw. Now Pharaoh told them, you have to get your own straw. Go out into the fields to find it, but you have to make just as many bricks as before. Then Pharaoh told his bosses to beat the people if they didn't make enough bricks. Then Hebrew people were angry at Moses and Aaron. You ask Pharaoh to let us go. What happens? We have to work harder. You make things worse. Why don't you just go away and mind your own business? Moses was upset. Is this why you sent me here? He said to God. Now Pharaoh makes people work harder. You made things worse. Moses, God said, I made a promise to Abraham and Sarah and all their children's children. I made a promise that you will be a great nation. Go and tell that to my people. So Moses talked to the Hebrews. Remember God's promise, he said. Please trust God. It's very important. Some of the people believed Moses. Others didn't. God helped Moses and Aaron try to make the Pharaoh let the people go. God turned the river into blood. Zillions of frogs and bugs and flies came. The cows and sheep got sick, and there were sores on the people. There was hail and grasshoppers. One time it turned dark in the middle of the day. These things only happened to the Egyptians, not the Hebrews. But Pharaoh would not let the Hebrew people go. Then God said to Moses and Aaron, I will do one more thing to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians. Then they will let my people go. So God told Moses exactly what was going to happen. Moses had to explain it to the Hebrew people. Listen carefully, Moses said. I want you all to get ready. We are going to leave Egypt, but tonight I want you to have a very special meal. Kill a small goat or a sheep and roast it. Take some of the blood from the goat or sheep. Smear it on your front door. That way God will know which houses are Hebrew and which are Egyptian. That night, the Hebrew people ate the roasted sheep. They smeared the blood on their front doors. Many of the people said prayers to God. God made a sickness come into the homes of all the Egyptians. The oldest child in every house died. Even the Pharaoh's oldest child died. But none of the Hebrew children died. And the Hebrews said, "The sickness has passed over our homes because we had put the blood on our doors." That same night, all the Egyptians, especially Pharaoh, wanted the Hebrews to leave. "Get out," they yelled. "Get out quickly. Take anything you want. Just go." The Hebrew people left quickly. It was like a whole city full of people all walking out together. Many of them had started making bread. They had to leave so quickly they didn't have time to let the bread get soft. They picked everything up and left. Miriam was walking with her two brothers, Moses and Aaron. "We will never forget this time," she said to them. "My people will always remember how God was with us. We will never forget God's promise." "We will never forget," said Moses. And the Hebrew people still remember this time every year. They remember what God did for them many, many years ago. They celebrate with a special meal. They tell the story of how the Hebrew people were freed from being slaves. They eat food like hard bread that reminds them of what happened. They call that celebration Passover, because they remember how terrible the sickness passed over their homes and their children. Here are the parts of the Passover meal that is shared by Jewish people every year at Passover. The bone is to help us remember the lamb that was eaten that night as God had commanded. The parsley dipped into the salt water symbolizes the tears of the people who were under the rule of the Egyptian Pharaoh and the suffering they had undergone. The horseradish helps us remember the bitterness of the Pharaoh and the harsh treatment of the slaves. The boiled egg also helps us remember the offering that was given to God, and it reminds us of the cycle of life. The apple mixture symbolizes the mortar that the Israelites had used in building the temples. The matzah or pita is to remember the unleavened bread, the bread that was made in a hurry by the Israelites as they prepared for their journey.